Well, they have actually found one new intellectual spokesman to defend them on the world stage. Do you know who that is?
I'm guessing you're going to say Tommy Robinson.
He wrote an article in well, I say he wrote an article. An article was written with his name attached to it in I believe it was the Jerusalem Post, where he talked about the Epstein files, the rise in anti-Semitism, and the real lesson we should take from it. And we were talking about the AI slop earlier. I mean, I'm kind of at the point now where I've seen so much AI cadence across X. It's obvious people are using it to write that now. I can just detect it pretty easily. But this one was like the most obvious AI generated slop I've ever seen in my life. I mean, if you follow Tommy at all, you'll know he's no Wordsworth, right? He struggles with the written word a little bit. I think that's fair to say. And this was well put together, but of course it had all of these very AI sounding phrases. That's not criticism, that's chaos. It's like all of these not, but this AI phraseology, just so obviously not written by him. But this is kind of the future now. Is you just take a guy that has a segment of an audience, get ChatGPT to generate an article in his name, say, "Hey, ChatGPT, make an article." Convincing people that Epstein has nothing to do with Jews or Israel, and then you attach the popular guy's name to the article and put it out there. That's like the future of media now. But he's been on the podcast circuit as well. They've been kind of rehabilitating him.
US tour.
Yeah, he's become this kind of spokesman for. He really got made into like a free speech guy, and they made this narrative that he was the only one talking about the grooming gangs, and then everyone realized it, and now he's vindicated as the only one that stood up about this.
Yeah, obviously there were a lot of British nationalists, including the British National Party. Mark Collett was on trial for allegedly inciting racial hatred for bringing the grooming gangs issue to the attention of the voting public. But Tommy Robinson managed to steal most of the clout for exposing that issue for himself. He was well supported by the Zionist lobby. It seemed as though he was deliberately getting himself in legal strife to raise funds, get sympathy from people, organize protest marches. And there were, around 2010 and even before then, marches organized by basically football fans under the banner of the English Defence League, which Tommy managed to become the spokesperson of, basically. And from the very beginning, he always said that, there were Nazis trying to infiltrate this movement, but I always made sure that we were multicultural and just speaking about the extremists and child rapists, and eventually took all that attention for himself, and now he's being exported as the savior of the British girls, when in reality there were a lot more people speaking up about that. And
well, I mean, if you want to talk about his advocacy on the grooming gang issue, this will be something a lot of people will not be aware of. I think you'll remember this. He raised money for a documentary that he said would be the ultimate documentary on the grooming gang issue, and then he came out with a documentary that was much anticipated. What was the title of the documentary?
Oh, that's back.
You've forgotten
now.
this. The title was Shalom.
Oh yeah, Shalom.
And it turned out the documentary was about the persecution Jews were facing with the new anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I remember that actually. I think he went to Paris and spoke to some French Jews that were complaining about Arabs going after them.
This was the guy that was the sole champion of the grooming gang issue, and was speaking up for it, and having collected donations from working class patriotic people that were really desperate to get that story out to a larger audience. What people forget about Robinson as well, and I can never find this. I remember watching Robinson in 2013-14, where he had a Newsnight appearance with the head of Quilliam, and if you look it up, Robinson renounced his far-right views in 2013 and joined this anti-extremist think tank called Quilliam, that's led by a former Muslim Zionist liberal. But I remember seeing this at the time on television where he went on with this guy and was interviewed and renounced his past beliefs.
And you, because you've been the leader of that, a lot of people have you as a kind of a figurehead of hatred.
Yeah, I know how people view that, and to be honest, the way people view the English Defence League is unfair. What I will admit is that there's fringe elements that I've battled against, and there are racist elements and there's violence, and I want to distance myself from that. And with this element of fascists that there are and the racists, it's like they stifle the debate. They're part of the problem. I want to be a credible voice, and I see the way forward is through speakers like Quilliam, and hopefully.
Have you joined Quilliam?
I'm going to be working with Quilliam.
But people forget about that, and then he disappeared for a few years. I believe he resurfaced during Brexit, and I don't know to what degree that may have been the establishment media trying to make him a figure in the Brexit campaign. You know, as kind of an unpopular figure, say, oh, this is what Brexit is representing, is this like hooligan strand and so on. But yeah, now he has kind of a second life as, you know, oh, he talked about the grooming gangs, free speech guy, and so on. But I think people in the US especially underestimate like just how disliked he is in the UK and in Europe.
He was in and out of prison. He spent a lot of time in Spain because I believe he moved his tax residency to Gibraltar. He was moving a lot of money to Gibraltar, different shell companies and things like that. So someone investigated that and went on Company's House and saw a lot of different shell companies opening and closing, and probably that's where donations were directed. He definitely has some kind of backing. He's been invited to Israel several times.
Yeah, I did a popular extra about it before, but you don't even have to go that deep into it. I mean, he got a big grant from the Shillman Foundation, where literally was established by a guy called Shillman. It's kind of funny. And David Horowitz's counter-jihad organization, there was some umbrella group of a think tank that directed funding towards it. There's quite a few connections there, but yeah, he's done a lot of fundraisers, you know, legal battles and documentary fundraisers and so on. He's raised a lot of money from patriotic people, which apparently his son has been able to enjoy some of the fruits of.
So on his US tour, some people went looking at his son's Instagram, and I think his son's about 18 or something, very young, but he's managed to have watches worth £40,000 on his wrist, something like this. Rolex Sky Dweller, which is a very expensive model, and he's got an iced out Cartier watch, and he's been photographing Lamborghinis and luxury villas with swimming pools on this US tour. So, you know, someone's looking after him.
It's not just that he's showcasing his affluence, but he was also, I think the post that really got people, he posted himself outside a private jet. And
yes,
the caption was something like, "You're in row 32 and I'm flying private." You know, it's like dunking on the brokies who are probably, you know, are the kind of people that are donating to his dad's fundraisers over the years.
Yeah, there are very aggressive emails begging for money, saying that, you know, just 100,000 more to get the new round of lawyers. That's, you know,
I do remember he had one. He was making an appeal, the United the Kingdom rally that they were going to have in London. He had a last minute appeal. They were almost there with the fundraising, but you know what? They were just short. I think it was about £27,000
for the big screen.
No, they were just short to expand the stage to have the Maori performers from New Zealand perform the haka.
You know, that there's nothing more patriotic than a Maori haka in central London, of course. That's, yeah, classic Robinson.